But I was very prayerful about our live today because as we are entering into this new year, I've been thinking about what are some things I want to consider in my own marriage? What are some things I want the many couples that I partner with, what are some things I want them to consider for their marriage? And so I have 5 questions that I want you and your spouse to ask one another for 2025. 5 questions you can ask yourself. Now, here's the deal. You may be watching this well into 2025, or maybe because I Believe in Marriage has been around for a long time, so it will be around for a long time after this. Maybe you're watching this in 2028. Really, these 5 questions are important regardless of when you stumble upon this video. And so I want you to keep these 5 questions in your back pocket. But because we are transitioning into a new year, this is a great time for you to ask yourself these 5 questions. And so allow me to take a moment to introduce myself. For those of you who may not know, I am Robin May, life coach and licensed therapist, and I'm the founder of I Believe in Marriage. And over here on the I Believe in Marriage platform, we are committed to helping Christian couples win in their marriage. As a matter of fact, we have a revised heartbeat for I Believe in Marriage. We want to be the go-to resource for you and your spouse, or if you are a member of a church, we want to be the go-to resource that you come right on over here to I Believe in Marriage, whether it's Instagram, whether it's YouTube, whether it's our website, to find resources that help you in your marriage. But particularly these videos that we are creating, that I am creating, sometimes my husband joins me, that we are creating, we want this to be something that you and your spouse can sit down and watch these videos to spark conversation, to understand one another better, to go deeper in your marriage. And again, if you are a member of a church, we want to be the place where your church can come and pull up one of the videos and use it for small group discussions, maybe for your Friday night couples gathering, maybe for Zoom gatherings that you all might do. Just pop on one of these videos, watch it, and then allow the conversations to spark. So we hope to be your go-to resource. So again, today, I want to share with you 5 questions you want to ask your spouse. 5 questions you want to ask your spouse. These are in no particular order, but because I'm a church girl, I have to start with this very first one. So here is the first question I want you to ask your spouse as you're starting this new year, or wherever you or whenever you stumble upon this video. The question I want you to ask is, how are we practically going to allow God to be the head of our marriage? How are we practically going to invite God, allow God to be the head of our marriage? Why am I using that terminology? Well, often we will say, Jesus is the center of my life, but the truth is your own desires are the center of your life. Your will is the center of your life. If you are not careful, you will be a believer in name only and not in behavior, not in how you allow him to convict your heart, not in how you communicate, not in how you engage with your spouse. And so I want to ask my husband this year, I want you to ask your spouse this year, how are we intentionally, practically going to invite God to be the head, the center of our marriage, to really guide how we love one another, to really direct how we engage with one another? How am I going to allow God to convict my heart when I need to be careful about that thing I'm about to say? When I need to go ahead and forgive for that situation I've been holding on to, when I need to ask for forgiveness, when I need to humble myself, when I need to give the benefit of the doubt, how are we going to practically invite God to be the head, the center of our marriage? I'm going to give you some practical suggestions for this, but often when I'm working with couples and I'm trying to get to the heart of their values as a couple, what are your values? Values are what guide, G-U-I-D-E, because I'm a little bit country. I'm from Texas, and sometimes when I say guide, y'all think I'm saying God. But that's y'all judging me, okay? That's y'all judging me, so I just spell it out. But your values are what guide your life. They are what allows you to know what is going to be the direction of your life. And so when I'm working with couples and I'm trying to get to the heart of what their values are, they often, because most couples who are attracted to me are Christian couples, and they'll tell me, Jesus. Jesus is our value system. Jesus is the head of our marriage system. So then I say, okay, so walk me through practically what that looks like. And I often have a hard time getting them to articulate it to me. So I want to help you. One of the very first primary ways that you and your spouse can practically ensure that God is the center, that God is the head of your life and the head of your marriage, is if you predetermine a set time that you and your spouse are going to stop and just pray together. Preordain a set time. Let me tell you, there is an alarm that pops up on my phone every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Now, of course, my husband and I want to make sure we're praying together more than just once a week. But we know on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. that alarm pops up. And I'm going to be honest, sometimes we just hit dismiss and go on about our day, which is not good. But there are times when we remember that it reminds us, wait a minute, let's just stop. Let's just stop, hold hands, and let's just pray. One of the things my husband and I have personally found is when we truly come together in prayer, God hears us and things change. So of course, the enemy wants to keep us so busy and keep us so pulled in so many different directions that we don't come together in unity in prayer. So prayer is a simple way. Number two, making sure you're worshiping together. That's a great way to make sure God is the center of your marriage. Making sure that you are studying a scripture together. Maybe you say, you know what, this week, baby, let's just meditate on this scripture. And then at the end of the week, we can talk about what it means to us. I want you and your spouse to come up with a creative way that you're, number one, making sure that God is the center of your marriage. And if you have some ideas as you're watching this video, if you have some ideas, put them in the comments, because you never know who may stumble upon this video, see your idea, and you could be sowing a seed into the health of their marriage, okay? So remember, I'm sharing with you 5 questions that I want you and your spouse to ask one another in 2025 or whenever you come across this video. So the first one is, how are we practically and intentionally going to invite God in to be the head, the center of our marriage? Here's number 2. Who is it that has our ear? Who is it that has our ear? Why are we asking that question? Because I'm going to tell you, it is critically important that you are careful about who has your ear. Who is influencing you when it comes to your marriage? Who are you listening to when it comes to marriage? Where are you getting your wisdom? Where are you getting your direction? Who can check me, boo? Who can you talk to that's going to speak truth to you about how you are showing up, speak truth to you about how your spouse is showing up? Who has my ear? Who has our ear? The question you want to ask yourself is, who is influencing my spouse and I in this season of our marriage? Because I want you to understand, if you are not careful about who has your ear, who you are listening to, slowly you can begin to turn your heart away from your spouse because you are being influenced negatively. Now, I understand we are all grown, and I understand that ain't nobody running you, but I want you to trust the word. And the Bible tells us that bad company corrupts good morals. And so if you are around the wrong people, it could be influencing what you think of marriage and what you think of your spouse. So the second question I want you to ask yourself is, who has my ear? Who is influencing me when it comes to my marriage? In a couple of weeks, I'm going to do a video, and the topic is going to be, who are the 3 people that you need to listen to in your marriage? Or I might do it the opposite way, or the 3 people you don't need to listen to. But I want you to ask yourself, who has my ear? Who is influencing me? Now watch this. If you aren't intentionally hand selecting the people that influence your marriage, then can almost guarantee it may not be good influences. I want you to hand select, to identify specifically, who are we listening to? Can I give you a hint on that? I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but I want to give you a hint on this. Because I understand that what we like to say is that we don't talk to anybody about our marriage, but that's not necessarily healthy either. And I know that may surprise you, but it's not necessarily healthy that you don't have anybody that you bounce things off with when it comes to your marriage. That is not healthy, because that could mean you're keeping it all internal, and we don't know what story you're telling yourself. We don't know if you're telling yourself the truth about how you're showing up. So it's not necessarily wise. The Bible even tells us there is wisdom in a multitude of counsel. So it's not that I don't want you to talk to anybody, but I'm going to give you a hint. You want to make sure that whoever has your ear is someone who respects, honors you, your spouse, and the institution of marriage. Y'all like how I gave you that hint? You want to make sure whoever has your ear, they respect you, they respect your spouse, and they respect the institution of marriage. All right, so far y'all have 2 questions. Y'all are going to sit down and you guys are going to have a nice cup of tea. You're going to have a hot cup of coffee. You are going to sit down and you're going to have some time. You're going to pull out your marriage notebook, because every marriage needs a marriage notebook. You're going to pull out your marriage notebook. You're going to pop on this video and you're going to say, okay, first question, how are we intentionally inviting God into our marriage? Second question, who has my ear? Who has your ear? How are we being influenced in our marriage? And let's go to the third question. All right, the third question is, how are we going to prioritize one another this year? How are we practically, I know I'm going to either say practically or intentionally, how are we practically going to prioritize one another this year? If you're just now joining this conversation, I am sharing with you the 5 questions you want to ask your spouse this year. 5 questions. Now, again, this is as we're going into 2025. What are the 5 questions you want to ask your spouse as we head into 2025? But you might stumble upon this video in March of 2025, in November of 2025. You might stumble upon this video in 2027. These 5 questions will go across the board. These are questions you always want to keep top of mind. There's a business principle that's called TOMA, top of mind awareness, and business owners are encouraged to keep your business top of mind of your customers, top of mind awareness. I want this to be TOMA for you. I want you to keep these 5 questions at the top of your heart. Now listen, as you're coming on, if you are enjoying this, if this is helping you, can you hit the heart button? Can you hit the like button? If you are watching this on Instagram, I hope you have subscribed to our Instagram channel. Well, you wouldn't be subscribing on Instagram. You will be following us on Instagram. If you're watching this on YouTube, I would love for you to subscribe to our channel. We are offering over the next couple of days a great Christmas gift to you and a Christmas gift to us. Your Christmas gift to us, if you are watching this on YouTube, is subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe, we have a great gift for you. We are giving you access to one of the lessons in the Can You Hear Me Now communication course. And so if you are interested in that, make sure you comment below and we will send you the link to make sure you sign up. All right, so as you're coming on, these are 5 questions I want you to ask your spouse. Number 1, how are we making sure that we're inviting God into the heartbeat of our marriage? We don't want to be believers in word only. You want to make sure you're not turning your heart away from God, that you're turning toward Him. The second question you're going to ask one another is, who has your ear? Who has my ear? How are we being influenced in our marriage? The third question is, how are we practically going to prioritize our marriage? If you've been rocking with me for a while, you have heard me talk about this term, unintentional neglect. It is so easy for us to put our marriages on the back burner of our lives, y'all. I want you just to think about all the things that are pulling at your time. Recently, my mother called me and she said, baby, you got too much going on. It's just a mother's love. But when I tell you, when my mother started to outline all the things that I am responsible for, honey, I went and got in the bed and I took a nap. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. I went and got in the bed because my mother started listing all of these things. And I know I'm not the only one. And listen, I am passionate about purpose. I'm passionate about destiny. And everything that I have my hands to are things that I love, that give me joy, that inspire me as I'm inspiring other people. But it is a lot. And if I'm not careful, I could be missing out on prioritizing what matters most, my family. And in this context, my marriage. So I want you to ask your spouse, and I want you to ask one another, how are we intentionally going to prioritize one another? Let me tell y'all this, what's so interesting. Okay, so I grew up almost like an only child. I have an older sister, but she's 8 years older than me. So that means by the time I'm 10, you got to imagine my sister was gone away to college. And so a lot of time growing up, I spent by myself, and it caused me to really enjoy my own company. I enjoy my own company. And so when I think about having the house to myself, it is like, it just feels like angels are singing. I love time for myself. And so recently, of course, with the holidays, we're all together, which I love that as well. My family, we're all together. We're spending time together. Well, just the other day, my husband walked in the bedroom and he saw that I was starting a new series on Netflix. And he said, "Baby, what is that you about to start?" And I said, "It's this series." He was like, "Where are you in the episodes?" I said, "I just started. It's just 10 minutes in episode 1. No. Wait. We're going to do it together." And he saw the look on my face. Because I had said in my mind, baby, this was going to be my series. This was going to be my series. I wanted to binge it all day. I wanted to sit on the couch by myself. I was so looking forward to it. And because he honors that and he enjoys time for himself as well, why was I upstairs looking at the series and he was downstairs looking at the series? And my daughter came in the room seeing me watch it, and she goes downstairs and sees her dad watching it. She's like, "Y'all are so strange," because as much as we prioritize time with one another, we enjoy time alone. But I brought up that story because one of the ways we prioritize one another is we have a rule. And I know some of you have this rule too. If we have committed to looking at a series together, you better not watch one episode without me. That's one of the ways we can make sure we have our thing. I want you and your spouse to identify what is going to be our thing in 2025, but not just what is our thing. How are we going to find the time to do that thing? Maybe it's watching a series. Maybe it's exercising. Maybe it's starting a project. I remember working with a couple, and as they were identifying their unique couple quality, that's something I try to help couples come up with, their UCQ, their unique couple quality, that thing that draws them together. They discovered that adventure was their unique couple's quality. They loved taking new adventures together. So I want you and your spouse to identify, how are we going to prioritize one another this year? You have to identify what the thing is going to be and when you all are going to do the thing. What is the frequency? Are we going to make sure we're watching our show at least once a week? Are we going to make sure that we're going on a run at least twice a week together? Are we going to make sure that we're trying? One year, my husband and I tried new restaurants every Friday. I want you to figure out how you're going to prioritize one another. All right, we only have 2 more. And so now I want to take a quick commercial break. This is the time, you all. Right now is the time for you and your spouse. When you talk about how are you going to prioritize one another, it is critical that you and your spouse have a strategic plan for your marriage. The Bible says, write the vision and make it plain. If you and your spouse haven't written the vision, I am going to guarantee you, y'all are not making life happen. Life is happening to you. And I created a template to help you and your spouse create your strategic plan. I call it the couples playbook, because over here on I Believe in Marriage, we're helping couples win in their marriage. So this is your playbook. I want you to go to IBelieveInMarriage.com/playbook. playbook, IBelieveInMarriage.com/playbook. You can get a digital version or a hard copy mailed to you. But I want you and your spouse to create your strategic plan. What are you guys going to do about time for one another? What is going to be your budget and financial goals for 2025? How are you going to make sure that you're tending to the needs of the children? What are you going to do about your own career goals? How am I going to support you? How are you going to support me? What are we going to do about this new venture that we want to try? I want you and your spouse to create your strategic plan. Go to IBelieveInMarriage.com/playbook. If you're watching this on Instagram, click the link in my bio. What's super cool is that we have a demonstration of my husband and I doing the strategic plan that you can catch that in the link in Instagram or in the description on YouTube. You can watch us. It's a whole playlist of you watching us go through our strategic plan. It was quite vulnerable, but we did it. We put ourselves out there. So we want you to do the same. We want you to get your strategic plan. Okay. All right. Let's get on back. So number one, what are the 5 questions? Number one, how are we going to practically invite God into our marriage? Number 2, who is in your ear? Who are you being influenced by? Number 3, how are you going to prioritize one another this year? Then number 4, which of the 5 hot button issues needs our attention? What are the 5? Which of these 5 hot button issues need our attention? What are the 5 hot button issues? Here they are. Number 1, not necessarily in order, but the 5 hot button issues are how we spend our leisure time, intimacy, financial management, roles and responsibilities, and outside influences such as your in-laws or friends and that sort of thing. Let me give them to you again. How we spend our leisure time, intimacy, roles and responsibilities, financial management, and other influences, in-laws or other people. Which of those 5 button issues needs your attention this year? Do y'all need to spend some time with how you're going to manage your finances? Do y'all need to spend some time with roles and responsibilities? I did a whole live about how research has found that many women feel more stressed out by the demands of their husband than they do the demands of their children. How are you out dealing with roles and responsibilities? Is this the year you need to really talk about your intimacy? Does one of you need to go to the doctor to deal with what issue that might be hindering y'all's intimacy? And I'm talking about your physical intimacy. What are these 5 hot button issues? Which of these 5 hot button issues do you all need to pay attention to this year? And I want to normalize this for you, all of us. My husband and I, who is your couple? Your pastor and first lady, your mom and dad. I don't know who the couple is that you respect and that you really honor. I don't know who that couple is, but one of those 5 hot button issues they need to pay attention to. I don't know who your person is, but one of those 5 hot button issues, all of us have to pay attention to one of those 5 issues. And I'm going to tell you, my husband and I this year, or in 2025, we need to lean in on 2 of those hot button issues. We got to lean in. We got to deal with it. Now, am I going to tell you which of the 2? No. Now, listen, I give y'all a lot of my business, but I'm not telling y'all which of the 2 are, because I put myself out there. You tell me which of yours in the comments, and then I'll come back and tell you which of ours. But I want to normalize that for you. All of us are having to deal with it. All right. I have one more question, and then we will be done. Again, if this is helping you, will you share it? Just hit the arrow and share it with somebody. Click the link and send it to your people. Make sure you are loving the video, liking the video, commenting, because it moves it up the algorithm. Here is the 5th question you want to ask one another this year. Am I meeting your relational needs? Am I meeting your relational needs? My girl, hold on. My girl Tia said, we need all of them except one. So that's why she's my girl. I am only friends with people who keep it real, honey. Tia. Okay, so the 5th question is, am I meeting your relational needs? Am I meeting your relational needs? Now, I need to talk about this for a minute, because we pay a lot of attention to love languages. That became very popular, and I love the love languages. I think that was brilliant when the author came up with those love languages. I think it's brilliant. And there have even been people, let me say this, there have been people who've given pushback on the love languages, and I think that that is unnecessary, because even the videos that I offer here on the I Believe in Marriage platform, my questions I'm asking or my thoughts about certain things or my professional perspective, it really is just to help jumpstart a conversation with you and your spouse. Listen, I don't have any problem with you sending this to your spouse and saying, none of those questions are important to me, which I don't think that would be wise. But I don't mind you using this to jumpstart the conversation to go into a different direction. So I love the love languages, quality time, physical touch. What are the other ones? Words of affirmation. I think that's great and necessary to know. But I don't want you to overlook relational needs. Now listen, if you've never taken a relational needs assessment, just DM me here on I Believe in Marriage, and I will send you a link for you to take a relational needs assessment. I have no affiliation with it. It's just one of my favorite assessments that I share with people. You want to know your own relational needs, and you want to know your spouse's relational needs. You can also head over to IBelieveInMarriage.com. We have it somewhere on the website, but it'll be much easier if you comment, and I'll send you the link. DM me, I'll send you the link, because I want you to know your own relational needs and make sure you know your spouse's relational needs. And then ask your spouse, am I meeting your relational needs? Let me give you an example of what some of them are. A relational need could be affection, loyalty, attention. Like those are, it's a core need that when unmet begins to cause a disconnect between you and your spouse. Now, let me tell you this. This is important that you know your own relational need and that you aren't becoming needy. There's a difference between having a need and becoming needy. See, let me make a pause here. Some of you are frustrated in your marriage because you haven't dealt with your own childhood trauma. You're frustrated in your marriage because you're having an expectation that your spouse feels all your needs, and that was never his responsibility. That was never her responsibility. And you're putting a lot of weight and a lot of demand on your significant other, when truthfully there are some wounds that need to be healed so that you can have a healthy love with your partner. But if you've never slowed down and figured that out and ask yourself, what am I really needing? You'll be projecting all of that onto your spouse. Once you've done that work and you've gotten clarity about your own relational needs, you can then communicate that to your spouse. And then you can ask your spouse, what are his or what are her relational needs? And am I meeting your relational need? And let me tell you another thing, or give you another thing to consider. As you continue to evolve and grow and mature, what you needed back in the day may not be what you need now. Listen, what my relational needs were when I met my husband at 18 years old, or when I married him at 20-something, what was I? 27 maybe, is not what I need now at 50. But if I am not slowing down and assessing what's going on with me, again, I'll be having a demand of him, or I will move the yardstick. I've been telling him I need this. He's doing this. And now I'm saying, no, that's not good enough because I haven't done my own work. All right. So those are the 5 questions I want you to spend some time asking your spouse. Write them down, jot them down real quick. Question. I'll put them when I repost this video. I'll make sure that I put them in the caption, and I'll put them in the description depending on where you're watching this. Here are the 5 questions. Number 1, how are we intentionally inviting God to be the head of our marriage this year? We don't want to just be Christians by name only. We want to live out our faith. Number 2, who has my ear? Who is influencing me? Who is influencing you in marriage? And if you say nobody, that's not necessarily positive. Who is it that you go to, that you ask for wisdom, for insight? Who is it that is helping you figure out what you need to do and how you need to grow? Who has my ear? Number 3, how are we going to prioritize one another this year? How are we going to make sure that I am not putting you on the back burner of my life, that we are not suffering from unintentional neglect? How am I going to turn towards you this year? How are you going to turn toward me this year? What are we practically going to do? Number 4, out of the 5 hot button issues, which ones do you and your spouse need to tend to? The 5 hot button issues are our intimacy, financial management, roles and responsibility, leisure time, and outside influences. Which of these 5 hot button issues are impacting our marriage, and what are we going to do about it? And then number 5, how are we meeting one another's relational needs? Am I meeting your relational need? Are you meeting mine? Do I even know my relational need? Do you even know your relational need? Is there an undercurrent where something is missing because we're not meeting each other's needs because we've never taken time to identify them? I hope these 5 questions have helped you. Seriously, I really want you to do this work. Over here, we are helping you win in your marriage. And if you haven't, make sure you get your strategic plan. Click the link in my bio. Listen, the strategic plan investment digitally is only $27. Can you imagine just investing $27 into creating a strategic plan for your marriage so that you and your spouse will have a playbook for the year? You do the strategic plan, you come back and you revisit it 3 months later, you revisit again in 3 months, and make sure that you all are staying in tune and in flow with one another. If this helped you, share it with somebody. I will repost the video so that you can have it, save it, and share it. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.